Those are parakeets that we bought from the store. They actually do communicate with the birds outside, though. It's really cute. There are tons of birds around here.
You know, the sad thing is, it's probably really cute, but they're probably just like, help me! Hey everyone, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. I'm so glad you guys are here. We have a great show, a wonderful show. You're just not even going to believe it. We have Isa from, she's the End Times Mama, a great blog and a budding podcast. And we talk about a lot of great things. Feral chickens, good housekeeping, all sorts of stuff. And it's going to be real good. You'll notice that you can just hear on her end of the line there that, you know, she's got a pretty wild life going on over there, but she's got some great advice for everyone, but especially women and families and everything. But just stay tuned, fellas. Don't go away. But before that, I just want to give some big old props, big old shout out to our two new Patreon supporters. That's right. We have the wonderful friend and listener Stacy, as well as, that's right, fellas, we got one on the board, Mr. Jason. All right. Nice job, Stacy and Jason, or Stacen, which is your Joyspiracy Theory supporter couple name, Stacen. Yikes. Okay, so let's jump into the episode here. Remember to leave a rating and review on iTunes, or if you would like to support the Joyspiracy Theory, you can go ahead and go to thejoyspiracytheory.com and click on support, or go to patreon.com and search for the Joyspiracy Theory. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's go.
Hello?
Well, howdy.
Hi.
Sounds like you're in a zoo over there.
It's funny because my kids are actually outside. Oh, but my parakeets are right here. I should probably move. I don't even notice.
I say zoo, and you automatically think you're children, who I do hear roaring somewhere.
Hang on, I'm gonna put these birds outside.
Okay, yeah. I mean, whatever you want. If you want, we could just do like a rainforest theme. Oh, she's gone. Bye, parakeets. More like pair of birds.
What's that?
I'm just talking.
Oh.
I'm just gonna keep this rolling. This is good radio right here. So how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing so good. This is Isa. Ryan?
Yeah.
What is that? Is that your husband? Are you one of those dual Facebook people?
I kind of. Yeah, I have a strictly ministry page, so Ryan is a pseudonym.
Oh my goodness.
You know, they don't let you do like fake names.
Yeah. They would never give a Facebook to somebody with a fake name.
Yeah, it used to be Isa End Times Mama, and then they like made me change it.
Okay, so you're the End Times Mama.
Yes,
that's who you are. I figured that out from your email, which I will keep secret on the air.
I actually don't even use that one. So.
Oh, okay. That's just the fake email you give to people you want to talk to on Skype?
No, Microsoft made me make an email address with them to have a Skype account.
You know, you don't have to do everything Microsoft tells you. Did you know that?
I didn't.
No.
I thought I was... They actually updated me to Windows 10 without my consent. So I thought that we were pretty much all just slaves to Microsoft.
We are.
Yeah.
Well,
or Mac.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're in the Microsoft. Someday at the end, I think, the apocalypse might include an actual physical battle between Microsoft and Apple.
That would would honestly not surprise me.
They both come out with like a type of sentient robot, like soldier, and then it's just that actually sounds really cool. I'm going to make that. I get some of my best ideas off this podcast.
I bet you do.
Okay, so you are the End Times Mama, which is a wonderful blog, and I believe you are now doing a podcast. Is that right?
I am. I'm doing a podcast, just the End Times Mama podcast, and then I'm also doing a podcast series for God's Property Radio.
Very cool.
Called Families on the Fringe.
All right. Before we get too much into that, tell me what you're grateful for right now. Go.
Grateful for my husband is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Classic.
Obviously my salvation, but he actually witnessed to me and first started bringing me to church and reading the Bible with me and everything. So
were you married first?
No, we were not.
Okay.
It was kind of when we were friends, and then when we started dating, it was kind of, he was like, well, I'm a Christian. So I'm, only really interested in marriage and only really interested in marriage to a Christian.
Wow.
But I definitely, one of the things that, really amazed me about him was that he was a Christian. Like his faith was definitely, a big part of who he was. He was a pretty new Christian at the time too. So, I'm not sure if I would advise dating a non-believer now.
Right.
But just, that would be kind of hypocritical of me because my husband started dating. Yeah. I mean, I think also one of the things that attracted him about me was that I listened to, we're out here in Hawaii where people are really new age, and you start talking about Jesus, people start telling you about Zeitgeist, or that they met Jesus on a peyote trip or something. So,
yeah, or he came down in a UFO. And,
right.
Yeah.
So the fact that I actually listened to him about the Bible and Jesus that, it was a huge basis for our relationship when we started out. So it was right off the bat, it was a
really cool
witnessing. Yeah, it was really awesome. And we've really, because he was a relatively new Christian at the time, we've both, studied and grown a lot together. And, we're definitely number one fellowship for each other, just being the kind of, alternative Christians that we are.
That's really interesting because now I just had a conversation with Derek Gilbert, and his episode came out.
Right.
And, we talked a lot about marriage and a little bit about, kind of his experience with that. And I mentioned that I had just been talking with a listener or two about the very subject of, dating or marriage or just a relationship with somebody who necessarily isn't a Christian, or maybe is a Catholic or some other thing. I'm really walking the line on having the Joyspiracy theory and falling into relationship advice podcast, but I'm really interested in that. So you actually started dating while you were technically not a Christian, or what did that look like?
Yeah, well, I was definitely not a believer. But, as I said, we kind of, before we were even romantically involved, he was definitely witnessing to me. He was not the first person to share the gospel with me, although the first person to share the gospel with me had done so right at the same time that I met him. And in my life, I never knew what the gospel was. I never really understood. I thought Christianity was basically just a big repressive joy kill religion that, I bought into a lot of that you hear, the Crusades and the Inquisition, and, that Christianity was really just evil, and, but Jesus was this great teacher, and, that sort of run of the mill stuff. But among all of that, I had never heard the actual gospel. And so the first time somebody shared that with me, who was actually, it turned out, we were living in this small town, so it turned out to be somebody that had been instrumental in my husband's walk about a year before. But he just gave me a quick ride home one day. People hitchhike a lot out here, and he just stopped me and was like, hey, just wanted to let you know real quick, no pressure. I don't want anything from you. I just want to tell you that, Jesus loves you, and he died for you, and he, I've let him into my life, and it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. So I just wanted to share that with you. So, all right, have a good day. And as soon as he first started talking about Jesus, I was like, oh no, he wants something, or he's going to pin me down, or whatever. But it was the fact that he would wanted nothing more than just to share that with me, and then was like, all right, peace, see you. It was like, wow. And I'll never forget that moment walking away from the car thinking, oh my gosh, like, I wonder if there's something to that. Like, I was at a point in my, kind of young wanderlust kind of point in my life where I was like open, and I was getting exposed to this new age stuff out here, kind of thinking it sounded really ridiculous. But, 2012 was coming up. I kind of bought into that for a few years and things like that. And
2012 was a big year for the new age.
Well, it was like the years leading up to it were a big deal. And then 2012 happened and it was like, oh, okay, I don't really know I'm not really around New Agers anymore that much, so right. I'm not really sure what they're saying now. But when I first moved here, it was like, I moved here in 2009 or 10, and so it was, everyone was getting all ready for it.
Right.
But so when I met my husband, and he told me he was a Christian, but he was like he was really kind of, iconoclast, anti-government, anti-establishment. He had just gotten out of the military and was really cynical about what was going on over there in Iraq. He had been in Iraq and was telling us, it really is, just a big corporate occupation and things like that. But then he was a Christian. And it's like, I thought people that were awake to that sort of thing were definitely not Christians. I kind of thought Christian and Republican were the same. And so right away, I was really intrigued by that. And we would sit and talk, with other people, that kind of similar kind of people. And he would just be like, we'd be talking about all this corruption and, this was a zeitgeist crowd. So a lot of 9/11 is inside job, a lot of New World Order awareness. And then he would be like, yeah, the Bible says like, this and this and this. And I was like, what? Like, I never knew the Bible said. I thought the Bible said to stone gay people,
Right.
And so our relationship was always kind of, my attraction to him definitely had to do with the fact that he was faithful. I thought it was really amazing that he had been through this really harrowing experience of being in the military, being stationed in Iraq, and came out. He read the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
He read a lot of like Aldous Huxley's writing on spirituality. He read a lot of Buddhist text. He read, what is that Chinese one about war? I don't remember.
The Art of War?
The Art of War, maybe I'm making that up, actually.
That's the thing.
It's the Bhagavad Gita is like a dialogue about a battle. I think that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So, and then
that's the Hindu one that talks about the birth of the gods and the battle and all the cool stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So he had kind of started to feel this sense of a divine presence towards the end of his time in the military, and so
he wasn't a Christian from the very beginning.
No. He was actually raised Jehovah's Witness, but it never made sense to him. No one could ever answer the questions that he had about it. He never
you guys
bought
are just
into
all over the place.
Yeah, we really are. But so he totally he reached a certain age. He never got baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, so he never really was one. He was raised in the community, but he was never himself technically a Jehovah's Witness, because they do the adult baptism. So usually you get baptized as a teenager, but he never wanted to. And then he finally, pretty much just insisted on not going to the Kingdom Hall anymore with his parents. And they were pretty pissed, but they kind of didn't really have, they couldn't really make him. And so he lived a very worldly life for many years, and then he was in the military. And when he got back from Iraq was when I think he started to really feel more of like a divine presence and start to feel actually, bad about things he was doing that were wrong. And so he sought out, all these different spiritual texts. And then somebody, right before he was about to go, after he got out of the military, he did some like work trade at hippie farms around the South and stuff. And he was about to leave. Maybe he was about to leave.
Does that mean he was participating in the trimming of certain plants?
Oh, no. No, actually, it was like, these were like legit hippie commune selling, like in Missouri and Virginia, like actually
making organic soaps made of soy and
things like that. He was at one where they were making tofu. He was at one where I think that they sold, what was it, honey or sorghum or something
hippie like.
Yeah, it was very hippie-ish, but I don't believe they were selling that.
Yeah, okay.
But right before he came out here, he went to the Salvation Army to get a, he always tells the story like this, to get a covering. Like he needed like a rain cover. And so he found one, and up at the front, he saw a little pocket King James New Testament. And he said, how much for that? And she was like, oh, you can have that for free. And so in the months prior, he had spent all this money. Man. Yeah. Well, apparently Salvation Army, I guess they never charge for Bibles, which is very legit. But he had spent all this money on, it's very symbolic. He had spent all this money on these other texts for, other religions. And he got the New Testament for free, which of course, mirrors our salvation is free through Christ. And so he read that, and that just clicked with him so much more. I mean, he is like a painfully logical person, and it just made so much more sense logically than anything else he had been reading, than the Buddhism or the Hinduism or anything like that. And those were the paths that he had thought would be more legit.
Right.
And because I think growing up Jehovah's Witness, he sort of had the same, like, it couldn't possibly be true. Like this is, but of course Jehovah's Witness theology is quite off in a lot of ways.
It's a fun story.
Yeah. Well,
crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of things about Jehovah's Witness that we definitely agree with that other Christians are not, like the mainstream church kind of just doesn't really address.
Right.
But, you get to the core of their theology denies the divinity of Christ and the path for salvation. So it's kind of like it doesn't matter what else they're getting right. They're missing the point.
The basic foundational principle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then so when he moved out here, he found a church and got baptized. And then after he and I met and got involved and I started reading the Bible with him and going to church with him and stuff, I got baptized by the same pastor a year after he did. And then it was the same man married us a few months later.
Wow. That's quite the story.
Yeah.
And this all happened, well, I mean, at least your part happened in Hawaii. Is that the...
yeah. We met out here and we met and got married and had our kids out here.
Look at you. How is it over there in Hawaii at this very moment? It's pretty early over there, huh?
10:30. It's kind of late Hawaii time. I mean, things start early here. So.
Have the hula dancers started shaking yet?
No, that usually happens over on the other side of the island for the tourists.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's sunny and not too windy. It's actually been, don't tease me. I guess you're in California, so you can appreciate this, but it's been ish.
There's some pretty large misconceptions about California.
Yeah, well, I'm actually from California too. I'm from Northern California, so I understand because everybody thinks that the entire state is Hollywood.
Surfing, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here too, everybody thinks if you live here, you automatically surf, but I'm wearing a surfboard.
All right. Well, okay. So, first of all, that's an amazing story about your husband. I'll have to cancel my interview with him now because we got the full story. But for you, I'm actually, like I said, I'm who cares? This might just be the relationship podcast now. So, as a non-Christian at the time, I'm interested in the point of view that you had. Like going into that, you kind of mentioned that you just thought Christianity was, whatever, the oppressive control system. But I mean, like the listeners will know that I was basically just born in a church on the pulpit. So I just don't have that point of view. But for people who are, I don't know, getting into relationships or dating or whatever, I mean, what the heck? How did you go from like, oh, Christianity is an evil control system to like, oh, he's kind of cute. Maybe I'll do the Jesus thing.
Well, it actually wasn't quite that simple. Like looking back, I really
imagine
realized, that God was really working in me a lot before he came into the picture. I wrote a blog post about this a few months ago, or actually it's probably like a year ago by now, but how gardening led me to God. And one of the things I was doing when I met my husband was gardening. That's why I moved out to Hawaii. I wanted to learn to grow my own food.
Why you moved to Hawaii was for
well, I wanted
soil quality and
I wanted to live off grid. I wanted to do work trade because I was sick of working my butt off to pay my rent when I didn't even get to spend time in my apartment.
Right.
And I really needed to just get out of the city. I had just experienced when I was 21, a very dear friend of mine was shot and killed in a mistaken. They thought that he was a rival gang member, and he was not. And so that was really like, like totally turned my whole world upside down. And I had, he was actually this is a really, if you thought the last story was crazy, he was actually a Bosnian refugee as a little boy in that whole, the Bosnian genocide. And he and his family had moved to the United States, and that was obviously I went to high school with him. He grew up there. So his family wanted him buried in Bosnia. So we went with them to Bosnia. And the way people live there is like ridiculously self-reliant. Everybody kind of has their chickens and their cow and their goat and their garden outside. And the villagers in the town that he was from had all moved to Europe and the US and earned money and moved back and just rebuilt the town themselves. Like there wasn't the government aid or infrastructure for that. So I just thought that was really amazing. Like really, I'm a city girl. I'm from the city where everything all the services are provided, you pay for everything instead of actually really doing it yourself.
Right.
And so that really amazed me. And when I got back to San Francisco, I had just moved out of my mom's house, and I was like learning to cook and kind of housekeep. And that was when it really hit me that like, oh, wow, like women stay at home because it's really practical. It's not this like oppressive system. It's like actually really enjoyable to keep your house. And here I am just like working my butt off, and I don't even get to spend time at home. And all the food I buy is from somewhere else, and I can't afford good organic food. And so I had some girlfriends that were living out here. They were, do you know what woofing is?
Yes.
Yeah, they were.
I was actually certified as a woofer for a while.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh cool. Yeah, so they were doing that, and
why don't you explain it to the listeners?
Those that don't, it is the woofing is kind of out in Hawaii. It's just kind of become a term, like Kleenex is for tissue. Yeah. It's work trading at a farm. WOOF itself is the World Organization of Organic Farmers, and where it's a program you can sign up for and get placed at different organic farms around the world. And there's a lot of WOOF farms out here.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I was certified in a different kind of woofing.
Oh.
Which is wilderness first responder.
Oh, yeah. That's cooler.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. Different, but
also
cool.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So we're out here. It's just work, or around the world. It's work trade at a farm. So instead of paying rent, you do a certain amount of work every week, and for your room and board. And it's, most of the time out here, it's at some sort of farm. And a lot of places aren't actually certified. They're just a lot of work trade. I actually never ended up doing any woofing. I did it all at just private property that had work trade positions available. It's really common out here. And it was such a cool thing like that, to not, instead of working for the money to pay your rent, you just work for your board.
Right.
And so, before
it seems like such a archaic way to do it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like, we used to joke a lot. It's a lot like indentured servitude.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're a serf.
Yeah, no,
living
it totally
at the foot of your noble.
And my husband and I, when we first got married and lived together, we literally lived at the bottom of a hill, and our landlords lived at the top of the hill in this big house, and we were at the bottom in this like tiny cabin.
And they would stand on their deck with binoculars and watch you work all day.
I mean, yeah, we would joke about it. I hope
like a loaded rifle just sitting there.
Yeah, just keeping us in line. It was actually a really, really chill situation. We only had to do 4 hours each a week for... we lived in a 10 by 10 open air cabin without electricity, but it's Hawaii.
So 4 hours was
pretty chill. Yeah. It was
a fair share.
Well, we had...
Any more than that, you might have wanted to ask for a front door.
We did have a door.
Okay.
It was just screen windows instead of like actual closing windows. So when we moved once before that to a place with no running water or electricity, and then we moved into an actual cabin with electricity when I was pregnant, and we had closing windows, and it was like this huge deal. And this is in a very, very damp part of the island.
You've been like a weird person for a long time.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, we lived without water and electricity for years.
Wow. What was that like? Because there's some really romanticized ideas about that, I think. I mean, especially me, I'm like, I'm just gonna move to a cabin and cut my own wood and shoot my own squirrels.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks like that'd be awesome, but the other part of me is like, well, you know, I don't know. Give any example. I need to take a shower at least once a year.
Well, we showered when you have water, we would just we showered with a hose at the place that had running water, and then we would just shower out of a bucket with rainwater at the place with no plumbing.
Shower out of a bucket.
And it's really not that bad. I mean, it's Hawaii.
Water.
It's always 70 degrees, so it's really not that bad. Even in the rain, it's not that cold, you know. When you're sick is the only time it really sucks. And then when I got pregnant was when I insisted I'm just going to heat up my water because I'm pregnant.
Because pregnant.
It's time to pamper. Yes, exactly. Which is, you can use that reason a lot when you're pregnant for anything. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, it really was very awesome, especially we had no electricity, phone, cell service. So, and this was a period of time in which everybody else in the world was getting totally plugged in. Right. So to spend that time, we still don't use we have like old iPhones that we just have phone plan. We don't even use them as smartphone. We can't even get into the smartphone thing. We're pretty plugged in now as far as we each have a laptop and I work at home on the internet. But, I'm really grateful to have been totally off grid in that way. For the time that I was.
Do you ever wish for the days of wild living again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I miss it. We live out in the country now. We actually at one point lived in like a housing development in one of the bigger towns here for a while. So that was just exactly. It couldn't be more different. But at the same time, God really used that time in my life too. Getting plugged in just as far as like our faith and the
getting
kind of things
a bank account.
Yeah, we had a bank account the whole time. There's like one bank in this town we used to live in and things like that. But we live in kind of the best of both worlds now. We're out in the country. We live in a little cabin, but it has internet, phone, electricity, running water. But we still garden out here. I can hang my laundry. We have a lot of space for the kids to run around. We live really simply. We don't have a lot of furniture or stuff, which is really nice. So I am really, really grateful for that time. You learn a lot about like cleaning and taking care of your stuff properly and like learning to live really minimally and like learning just to make and kind of ghetto rig things. And my husband, having been in the military, he
crafty fella.
Yeah. And he was always a real like kind of camper type outdoor commando type person. So he was a really good person to do that with. We did a lot of gardening. There was a point in time when we were actually all we bought for food was like potatoes and cooking oil and oatmeal and peanut butter, and everything else we either grew or picked on properties near our house. So
wow.
Breadfruit.
Picked on properties like ninja style into somebody else's pineapple field.
No, we worked for a woman who had a breadfruit tree and she didn't like breadfruit. So that was about like the biggest score ever.
Oh, yeah,
breadfruit is awesome.
That's one of those Hawaii things, I think. Yeah,
it's in other countries too, but it's definitely a very celebrated fruit here because it's like a potato that grows on a tree, basically. So
is it gluten free?
It's probably paleo too.
Oh,
it's not a grain, so.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Now, I know you tried to get the birds away, but I still hear them. So, do you have a lot of like are those wild birds in your house, or are they caged?
Those are parakeets that we bought from the store. They actually do communicate with the birds outside, though. It's really cute. There are tons of birds around here.
The sad thing is probably really cute, but they're probably just like, help me.
I do kind of feel sorry for them sometimes, but I went back to the pet store the other day to get their food, and the parakeets in the cage looked really sad and depressed. And so it's like, okay.
At least you saved them from that.
Yeah, and we have a boy and a girl, so they have each other, which is really cute. They play and jump around and stuff. And we do have a lot of chickens that are totally not wild. I mean, they hang out with us, but they roost in the tree. They lay.
How do they
despite
get
our
in the
best
tree?
efforts.
Did you make a chicken ladder?
No, they just fly. Chickens can fly, actually.
That goes against, that's a conspiracy, because I've been told my entire life.
They can fly like up in a tree. They can't like soar at all, but they can like jump out of the tree and like flap. Even the little chicks, like if you're holding a chick, at human chest level and you drop it, it'll flap its little wings.
Slow the fall a little bit.
Yeah, I think ours are mostly a feral. There are a ton of this. Actually, Natalina thinks this is amazing, and I just told her about it quite a bit. There are a ton of feral chickens.
That is hilarious. Do they run around in packs and kind of intimidate the village people?
Not really, because they don't survive as well. You often see a mama with just like 2 or 3 little babies.
Right.
A lot of, and chickens can have like 12 babies in the right conditions, but you do see, like in the parking lot of, Walmart and stuff, there'll just be chickens running around.
Now, do you use these for eggs, or do they, is there a more grisly side to your country living?
Well, we're actually just getting our why am I blanking on what you call a group of chickens? Flock? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's not a herd.
A gaggle?
Brood. I know a brood is what you call the babies.
A bucket?
Anyway, we're getting our chickens, our crop of chickens started again. So we do intend to use them for eggs. They just laid, and we let them sit on their eggs because we wanted more chickens. So we had my husband originally got our hens because he found
can breed for now.
Yeah. I mean, they get to do the fun part, whenever. Well, it's not really fun for the hens. It's pretty much the rooster chases them around and grabs them back in the neck. And then,
some real like savage National Geographic style.
Yeah, it's not fun. And then it's actually kind of cute afterwards. The hen will just walk around like all ruffled, her feathers going, like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. But the whole thing only takes a few seconds, fortunately, for the poor little hen.
It'll be over soon.
Yeah.
Okay, moving away from this. Okay. We got kids listening here. Okay, so you see, I mean, it sounds like your life is a dream. Like, I think I've literally had a dream where I'm living that life.
It's pretty awesome, I have to say.
Ever since I started the Joyspiracy theory, you've been a huge supporter, which is part of the reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you're here right now. But you were on board from the very beginning, and I almost don't even need to ask this question because it seems like you're just so joyful anyways. I feel like I'm gonna anyways. So, was there a point when you started learning all this, conspiracy stuff, prophetic stuff, apocalypse stuff, that, I mean, when did that start? When did you, it sounds like that was kind of always part of the thing, because that's kind of built into the whole zeitgeist type situation.
Well, yeah, like see, we always had certain perspectives, coming in, like I said, my husband, a lot of what he showed me in the Bible were things that I already believed, that I think a lot of Christians end up kind of waking up to, that never really happened for me because I already believed it. The way I was raised, I was, or not even the way I was raised, but the things I was interested in when I was younger, I was pretty iconoclastic. So I always thought that the people in power were really corrupt. So that none of that was really that hard for me to believe. The first time I heard about the New World Order when I was still not a Christian, I thought that it was impossible. It wasn't so much that I had all this faith in world leaders that they wouldn't do that. I just thought it sounded too big. Yeah. I genuinely believed, that Oceania was fighting Eurasia or what, the 1984. I still thought that I didn't really realize how synthesized world powers were. And so when I became a Christian, I was already kind of going into it. A lot of what convinced me the Bible was true was reading the book of Revelation and different prophecies and being like, wow, this looks like it's happening now, So that was never hard for me. But becoming a Christian, I was always very aware that a lot of Christians seem to have a lot of faith in their government. And, maybe it's just age or studying the Bible more. I don't think that Christians should be anarchic. You know, I don't think that it's about revolution. You know, I had a blog post recently called "The Revolution Will Not Be Temporal." I don't think we're supposed to be. I think that we are still supposed to live submissive, gentle, peaceful, obedient lives.
Revolution of the soul.
Exactly. And Jesus is going to come do everything that we want to do to the powers that be. You know, he is going to set up that perfect government.
Right. Well, it's easy to fall into like the early Jewish thought, which is, you know, they thought the Messiah was going to come and set them free from their oppressors. Like that's the whole reason they didn't believe in Jesus, is because they thought he was going to come with an army and, you know, set them free. And you can kind of see a parallel with that with a lot of Christians in America, which is, you know,
make America great again.
Right. They're waiting to come in and somebody to come in with an army or rise up themselves and take over the government and live, you know, basically establish what we would know as the world, the age, the world to come.
And that's kind of, this isn't always consistent with dominionism, but you see that a lot. Like Kim Davis, you know, she's part of the Apostolic Church, and there's a thin line, I think, that we as Christians need. You know, Paul appealed to Rome to have a fair trial. I think we as Christians don't have to totally forsake the democratic or the legal process. I think that there is a place for defending Christian rights. There is a place for defending, you know, abortion is an issue where it's kind of like, well, yeah, like we don't vote. We're not registered to vote. I don't think that every politician is inherently totally evil and worshiping Satan or anything like that. Not far off, but
they're just bought into the game.
I think there's a lot of different levels. I don't think voting is wrong. We used to kind of think voting was like wrong. But that was both of our backgrounds. Now we realize it's not necessarily wrong to vote, but it's where you're putting your faith that matters. Like it's not the voting itself. It's if you actually think that is, you know, people put too much faith in the democratic process. But anyway, to answer your question more, when like I said, we didn't have internet, so we weren't aware of this amazing community for a long time. You know, we didn't have YouTube. And what kind of fringe Christian are you if you don't have Fitbit? You know, like so there was a lot that we just didn't know. You know, obviously, I say this all the time. Age of Deceit was a huge paradigm shifter for us. I went to a Waldorf school, which I've talked about this in different places. Rudolf Steiner was a protege of Blavatsky, so watching Age of Deceit was just like, oh my God, like my whole world was just like a lie, you know, so.
And just for those of you who don't know, if that's even possible, Age of Deceit is a wonderful YouTube film by my good friend Gans Shimura. You can find it on YouTube. It'll blow your mind.
Yes, totally. Okay. And it really just sets you know, it's just so many important aspects of really like culture. I don't know if that was just in my experience, just being around New Agers and being from San Francisco. And, you know, I've learned so much. I'm very interested in things like, you know, cultural Marxism and feminism. And because I was so influenced by the 60s Cultural Revolution as a kid, it was a huge part of my paradigm.
Right.
So sort of seeing through that, and also, you know, I don't think it's all, these things are all based on like feminism. You know, women are horribly treated all over the world. Like there is a reason that, you know, men do take advantage of women. There is a lot of good reason to want women to be, obviously women should be treated fairly and with as much respect as men, but there are a lot of things hidden in that philosophy that I strongly disagree with.
Right.
Just as an example. So anyway, once we were on the grid, that was the thing about living in this housing development, was hard in a lot of ways because we weren't living the way that we wanted to as far as our lifestyle, but we got the internet. And that was when we were, you know, and I know it's like
fair trade.
It was great to be unplugged, but you know, I got to meet a lot of other women who were, you know, the same kind of Christians, same kind of mentality, who were moms and wives too. So that was amazing for me. And that was when it really changed from before that. I actually kind of didn't want to hear about it. Like I did believe the New World Order. I did believe we were in the end times, but I was still really governed by fear. And once I connected with other Christians that were into these kind of things too. And also something that happened when we got the internet is we just started studying the Bible more. I'm not sure if that was consistent, if it was because of the internet, or if because we started to learn more about these kind of topics, we turned around and started studying our Bibles more.
Right, like you're getting pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's like like the Berean, that we wanted to go and look and see, is this really in the scripture? My husband and I, actually, neither of us read the Old Testament for the first few years we were together and that we were Christians.
That's interesting.
And so, we kind of thought that it wasn't necessary. He's always totally, he is a natural spiritual leader. And so he pretty much just told me we didn't need to read it. Once we learned, I think this is why we started reading the Old Testament, because of Genesis 6. And when you get that Genesis 6 paradigm shift, and then it's all over the Old Testament, and Christ's, the nature of Christ is all over that's what I love about the Old Testament, is how many, foreshadow of Christ there is and stuff. So we've both read the Old Testament now, and I don't understand why we didn't, because there's so much. It's like just so important to understand for the New Testament, and that's why the New Testament constantly points back to the Old Testament. So that was definitely when it became, there was a point where we were kind of just into the fringy stuff, but when I started to converge my faith with the conspiracy stuff was when my faith really took off.
Wow.
Changed, and kind of, I also, we had 2 kids in 2 years. So our boys are 19 months apart. And by the time my second kid was born, there was this one moment where it was the first time they were both crying at the same time. I had a toddler and a baby, and, it was like, I can either completely freak out right now, or I can just be like, okay, God, like so in a way, obviously it's not this huge, harrowing thing to have 2 babies at once, but it's pretty stressful. And it was when I really learned to rely on God, because I could not do it. And for parenting, if there's mothers listening will know what I mean. For parenting, trying to do it all yourself is impossible and stressful, and you will always be disappointed. You will always fall short. You'll always feel like a bad parent, but you got to just outsource that to the Lord,
Yeah, that's amazing.
You cannot do it on your own.
So I guess here's something I'm really interested in, which is, in this podcast and just kind of in life, I take as a given, which I don't want to say I take it for granted, but I work on the assumption that, Christ is our joy and we are to find our joy in him and he completes us and things like that, which obviously is an integral part of any joyful Christian life. But it seems like you were kind of doing a lot of the things that I like to recommend people do already to stay joyful, communing with nature so much, really getting off the grid a little bit, not inundating your mind just with your Facebook feed, eating healthy, eating right, getting out of the, GMO system. All things like that. I mean, I'm even hesitant to ask you if there was any time during this journey, focusing on family and everything, any time during this journey that you kind of, found yourself in a lower place because of all the conspiracies and things like that. Where, it seems like you had a pretty good foundation for staying happy, but tell me about that.
Well, actually, to be honest, like all of these, I've been so blessed in getting to live a life that I really wanted to. I think all of those recommendations that you give to people are fantastic. And I, of course, recommend all those things too. But a lot of this time, I wouldn't say I was like just super. It's only been in the last few years that I would say I've been really, really joyful. And it was when I was really became became founded on Christ instead of just having this intellectual belief in the Bible, intellectual knowledge of the New World Order. It means nothing. All that stuff means absolutely nothing if you don't realize what Christ really is, what that life that we get through him really is. Like and that's why I think, there was a point where I was really born again, and it was a few years after I got baptized,
Right.
And I didn't really understand. I knew kind of that I don't really know what it means to be born again. But once I really had that, I was a new woman, the new man. Once I really changed, it was because my salvation was really founded.
And that's a great point. Just that the difference between I'd just almost call it the actual being born again versus intellectually knowing the concepts of the Christian religion.
Because, like 1 Corinthians, we can have all, and I'm sure we all know people too that know the Bible backwards and forwards, are so intellectually strong in the word, and yet you can see, and I think that's why we're to know a tree by its fruit. That's why it means nothing if we don't have that solid relationship with Christ. And actually what I was going to say about living in this way that would be really satisfying to a lot of people, that is, and I'm going to talk about this in the second episode of Families on the Fridge. I'm talking about health kind of parallel with faith, because being super healthy and living a super awesome communing with nature life, it's all still temporal.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily satisfy me as much as it should have, because it wasn't founded in Christ. I was certainly very, it was awesome living like that. And it's really, really awesome how we live now. But I mentioned living in a housing development. God really used that time in my life because it wasn't how I wanted to live. And that was when I really found that joy. That was when I was really born again, was living in a stuffy apartment in a city, which is like the opposite of where I wanted to be in my life, physically, at least. And so God really used that time for me to find my joy completely apart from anything physical. And I think before then I had been looking to, and it's also parallel with being kind of paranoid about kind of end time scenarios, wanting to have this, be really prepped physically and have this, gain all this knowledge about the New World Order so I could somehow defeat it. That was the wrong, not that there's anything wrong with those things, but once again, if you're not founded in Christ, that stuff isn't going to do anything for you.
Right.
I think it's great to be, we live we're like total health snobs, but I used to be so much more paranoid, especially having little babies, all the chemicals and we get a lot of like geoengineering out here and some chemtrails. It's not crazy, but there's a lot of pollution and there's stuff in the water, and, you cannot get away from the toxins. It's a fallen world. But once I had that foundation in Christ, all that health stuff, as healthy and, immaculate as we are, it just didn't trouble me anymore. I didn't worry about it anymore. And I found that I was actually able to just sort of be more lucid and develop healthier habits, to where the things that I was so afraid of, once I wasn't afraid of them anymore, they seemed to just, I was able to get them out of my life more. I was able to, housekeeping, homemaking there is a reason that women are instructed to do that in the Bible. It's not, this patriarchal oppressive thing. It is a very amazing spiritual calling. And when you look to the Lord to guide that process in your life, you can, just have it, you can do everything through prayer will help you with anything. And meal planning and keeping your cleaning routines and just little things you can do to live a healthier life, can be really spiritually rewarding if you're looking to the Lord to guide you, instead of trying to achieve this kind of perfect clean house, or, be this perfect mom, or all your kids eat this really healthy food,
Right. Okay. I say this a lot, but that's an excellent point. This actually parallels kind of an interesting spiritual, an interesting spiritual thing that I kind of have literally just in the past couple of days have been shown. I can confidently say that. I was at a gathering, a Christian gathering, and I was really just deep in the spiritual mode, in prayer and in seeking God on a few things, on how to, what else in my life needs to be taken care of, like what's gonna, just to take everything to the next level, whether it's spiritually or just relationally with God and others and things like that. And the silliest thing came to me, and I had to struggle with it. I actually wrestled with it. And that is, God just said, you need to clean your house. And I, at first I took it like a spiritual thing, like, oh yes, Lord, my heart is so messy. And, and he's like, no, you need to clean your house. Your environment is causing trouble, just in a holistic sense. In your walk, in your life and everything. And I was really, really convicted about it. This was just about 2 nights ago. And I was thinking, like, that's so materialistic. Why that can't be from God. That's just me thinking I need to clean or something. And I got home that night, and I'm just looking around. Even right now, I'm looking around my office, and it is a wreck. It is filthy. I mean, I have boxes and books and these weird, like, book, what is it? The bookends, I just have a stack of bookends sitting here on my desk that I'm looking at. I have no idea why they're here. Like, there's just enough room on my desk to put my computer. All of my files are spread out all over the floor because I was looking for one file and I couldn't find it, so I had to take out every piece of paper and lay it out. And now there's God was just like, look, man, the physical, the physical is meant to mirror the spiritual and vice versa. And so you need to clean your house because it is causing issues. And so when I hear you saying that, housekeeping is actually a spiritual thing, I mean, there's calls in the Bible. And yeah, I know you're specifically talking about women, but I ain't got one of those around right now. All right, Isa? Okay, don't judge me. So I got to do it myself. A good wife is a wonderful thing, the Bible says, and I got to get on it. But I really resonate with what you're saying about, keeping a home is a really important thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so sorry. My mom is trying to get my kids on side. So can you hang on like 1 second?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'm going to go hang on.
That's okay. All right. So it's just me and you, listeners. We're here after my rant about house cleaning. But, let me know. Maybe somebody should send me a voicemail on thejoyspiracytheory.com, or, just hit me up on Facebook or something if you agree or disagree, because I don't know, that's just something I was really feeling. If you're wondering what else I have in my office while I stall here, underneath my desk is a computer that has not been turned on in the past 2 years. 2 years. So it's actually just been used as a footrest. And so it's about, it's an older computer, but it's a few $1,000 footrest right here. I should probably pat it or something. It kind of digs into my legs. Did she mute us? I wish I could hear the birds. Kind of feels like we're in a rainforest still. Well, I guess she kind of is in a rainforest. Well, just chatting to myself again here. I don't know if I'm going to edit this out. I might just leave it for you guys. Maybe I should take note of the time. 51 minutes. 51 minutes. Well, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Yeah. Let's see here. I have a signed baseball in one of those little baseball holders that has like a stand. And for the life of me, here, I'm opening it up. For the life of me, I cannot read who signed the baseball. I've had it since I was a kid. Looks like J. Blue? something? Jar Blue? J Blue. Something like that. Well, if anybody knows a baseball player by the name of Jay Blue, you can tell him I have his baseball if he's looking for it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, she's back.
You've been having quite a
yeah, I think I'm just going to let it roll. I don't know. We'll see. Are all your emergencies taken care of?
Yeah, my mom is visiting, and she was kind enough to be playing outside with the kids just now, but she wanted to go back to her place and take a nap, and so it was quite devastating.
So now we have the children.
Yeah, so
children are back.
Outside and set up with cartoons and juice. So
okay, all right. Well, if they want to come in and talk about the spiritual significance of cleaning a house, they're totally allowed to. But do you have any more to speak to that? Because personally, even aside from the show, I'm looking for a little bit of wisdom.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how much it really amazed me, just kind of like what you were saying, that like there's no way something that physical could be so spiritual. But I actually, this is ridiculously practical. And like temporal, but right. it has been really amazing for me spiritually. I work at home, which is a relatively new thing. Just in the last 6 months, I have been working at home 25 hours a week, which is quite a lot with, I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old and a very small place. And we do, like I said, we do a lot of, I hang our laundry, we have gardening I need to take care of, watering plants, like a lot more than just keeping a house, just right. Kind of a lot of little extra things. And I really, having this job has really forced me I really need to stay on top of it, or everything just kind of falls apart.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah. So I've been watching some YouTube videos actually on just women who, everybody has a YouTube channel these days, just cleaning routines that will help you keep your house clean all the time. And I think that's been the real key for me. Come here, honey. Is just and this is what really parallels the spiritual so much. Is this?
Is that Luke?
No, that's Bradley.
Bradley. Does he want to say hello?
No, he is happy with his beverage. Oh, maybe not. What's wrong?
Make up your mind, Bradley. Yeah. What do you want?
2 is a very difficult age. I
oh
think
boy.
For him especially. Never happy. But it's that regular, and I noticed this with my spiritual walk too. If I'm not regularly in the Word, if I'm not regularly praying, it is amazing how quickly you will kind of stumble, just fall into sin or fall into negativity or frustration, stress. But then just a few minutes a day of like really focused prayer or Bible study can make all the difference in the world. And the same thing is true with our physical houses. It's just, taking 5 minutes here and there through. I have a little kid, so I constantly need to pick up. But if I am constantly, see something out of place, just put it away. Like take 10 minutes at the beginning, middle, and the end of the day to just do a little tidying. I do laundry. I do 1 load every day. I always make sure to put the clothes away because that will like really back up right. the process. And just kind of constantly be doing little things to clean is so much easier than trying to do it all at once at one point during the day.
Yeah, I work a lot off of to-do lists. I love to-do lists. So every night before I go to bed, I make a to-do list for the next day. And it's just had to have become a habit where I actually set out 15 minutes a day just to do some cleaning, because I can't really do constant cleaning, but 15 minutes to set aside. I just put a little timer on my phone, throw on a podcast, and just go at it for 15 minutes. And it's amazing how much you can get done in a short amount of time. Whereas, if I'm just looking at my kitchen, for instance, right now, and I'm like, maybe I should clean that, or maybe I'll go do something else. It's really overwhelming, and I just never get to it.
Well, and see, I'm at home. I stay at home, so I get to experience the drastic difference between when I'm like, maybe maybe I'm just going to hang out on Pinterest for 15 minutes instead of just do the dishes after breakfast. That'll like screw up my whole day. You wouldn't think so.
Right.
But it would seriously screw up my whole day. You know, like
just those dishes staring at you from the sink as you walk by every time.
Because if I don't do them until the end of the day, and evenings are with little kids, evenings are like their witching hour. You know, that's when they go crazy.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot, you know, with bedtime and baths and cleaning up after dinner, and Dad's home, which can help, but then also can kind of, you know, he's trying to chill out. He just got home from work. He's trying to chill out. It's hard for him to manage both the kids. He's a landscaper too, so it's not.
Oh, that's like some real man's work.
Yeah, and so he's physically really tired when he gets home, so it's hard for him to really, you know, and they, of course, sorry.
Was that a child's toy, or was that a cell phone?
That was me plugging in my headphones. And
okay.
Back and forth. But yeah, like if I don't do the dishes at the beginning of the day, then I'm doing them all in the evening, and then it's taking me 45 minutes to clean up. And I have a very small kitchen, so it takes a long time. But if you keep the dishes done, especially I've noticed a huge thing, sweeping up and doing the dishes and picking all up before dinner makes evening cleanup so much easier. If I don't do that, I'm like up till 11.
Is that a late time for you?
Yes. It's a very late time when you get up at
like
6.
Up to 11? Oh my goodness.
No, it's pretty late for me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, good. I'm glad I have somebody who agrees with me, and I'm not alone in my spiritual journey of cleanliness.
No.
So there you go, folks. If you take one practical idea out of this podcast, is get yourself a pack of feral chickens and clean your dang home. Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. You sound like you've got a very full life over there, and your children, both spiritually and with your schedule. I mean, let's talk about your kids. You want to talk about your children a little bit? Because
sure.
I will say, just hearing them sporadically and arbitrarily making not even words, just noises in the background, it's actually kind of fun. I'm enjoying that as an outsider.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit.
Well, like I said, they're 19 months apart, and they're 2 boys. So just between those 2 factors there, I think literally every time I go out in public with both of them, someone tells me, "Looks like you have your hands full." It's amazing how often people tell me that. I think also because they're boys. You know, little boys are very energetic. Very, especially my little one, the 2-year-old, he is really communicative, and he will literally grab your face to make sure that you're listening to him if he's saying something or singing something. And so he's, they're both pretty.
Mom.
Yeah.
Mom,
yeah. I mean, it's
Mom,
like.
Listen to my song.
And he loves to sing. It's really cute. He and I have actually been singing hymns together, which is amazing. That is a really, really phenomenal thing about children yes, it's a baby. Now, here's Luke is providing some commentary of their lives. He's 19 months older. So really, he's not that much older, but he calls Bradley a baby, even though Bradley is 2.
It is a baby, Mother.
Yeah,
it's a baby.
Thinks he's a big boy, and Bradley is this tiny little baby. And he's a very, very good big brother. He helps us scold Bradley. He likes to do that when Bradley is bad.
That'll be fun later on in life.
Yeah, it can get a little crazy. But he also is very generous. What are you yelling about? He shares his toys with him. And
that's good.
They've been playing together a lot more. They're kind of at the ages where they can play more. You know, there was a
together
bigger, a bigger developmental difference when they were littler, but they're into all the same stuff. I didn't know why. There was a long period of time I didn't understand why they didn't play together, because they both like dinosaurs and monster trucks and ABCs and numbers and shape. So they kind of figured out that they have a ton in common, which is cute.
Numbers and shapes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They
bonding over some numbers and shapes.
They both know Luke can count to 100, and Bradley kind of count up to maybe 30. They both know a lot of the numbers and all their ABCs, and so they love that stuff, which is really cool. And my husband and I have been joking a lot recently. All that they ever want to watch lately is videos about fruits and vegetables and Bible stories. Like, we can't be doing too bad.
They sound like little angels when you say that.
They're definitely very wholesome little children. But like my husband always says, they could be asking for Katy Perry and, SpongeBob, but this is what we show them. So it's cool where they're at the age where we can kind of see that in action, that the choices that we've made to expose our children to certain things are definitely paying off. But it's amazing how much they seem to know about Jesus without even really being taught that much. Like my Luke, the older one, recently, it was entirely his idea. He and my husband built a cross out in the yard out of some scrap wood.
Really?
And he tells us, it's the cross of Jesus. Oh. And we don't actually know if he knows the
details.
Right. Because his beginner's Bible is very downplays that.
Right.
But,
well, it's hard to put the gruesome facts of the crucifixion in those cute, like, round cartoons that they put.
Right. I mean, they do say, that he dies and they show the cross on the hill, but it's kind of just a shadow. You don't see the people hanging on it.
There's no blood or...
Right.
entrails gushing out or anything.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no.
That's a thing. I think.
Right.
Sorry, are the children listening? Yeah. Do they know the word entrails?
No to both.
Okay.
They would know. But it was really cute. The other day he was outside by himself, and we heard this kind of thud, and he yelled or like made a noise, and we go out there, and he's somehow found, this is gonna make me sound like a terrible parent, but he's found my husband's mini sledgehammer, and he's dragging it over to the cross because it had gotten knocked down, and he wanted to hammer it back in.
He wanted to hammer the cross back into the ground.
Like, it was so, and he went to great, like, it's not like we keep his tools out, like, he went to great lengths to get that, find that mini sledgehammer. So
he had to pick the lock to the shed.
It was really cute.
Find a stepping stool.
He really likes Jesus and Bible stories, and he's really into David and Goliath right now.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, they love to play. They get on the bed and fall backwards and say, "David, kill the giant."
No throwing rocks at each other's heads, though.
Fortunately, no. We've had to explain that we can't really do that, enact that with other people involved. But he does have, my husband made him a little toy sling, and he has a little plastic rock from his dinosaur set. So
goodness gracious. All right, well, this brings us to your ministry work. Okay, your ministry work, End Times Mama, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So tell us just a little bit about that, and let's get into some of the stuff you have here. Because I'm sure you are just fighting the urge to drop this whole interview and take care of your children.
Oh, no, they're being pretty good right now.
Okay.
Well, I have my blog, endtimesmama.com. I started that about 1.5 years ago, just because among all these amazing podcasts and resources for Christians of this ilk, I did not see anything particularly for women or mothers. And so I wanted to create something along those lines. And it has been, affirmed to me. A lot of people have said that, that they have noticed the same thing and that it's definitely filling a gap. So I'm very, very glad that God has been able to use the site for that and just to kind of bring women together. So I love to write. I've always loved to write. So it's a really, really awesome outlet for that. And that's endtimesmama.com. And just from that, when I found God's Property Radio, I was really stoked because, Sam and Dan have, they're about, around my age, me and my husband's age. They have kids around the same age. They're all into the, healthy lifestyle kind of stuff too. So I started talking to them just because we had that in common. And I was really grateful to hear people talking about it. And, Sam is kind of expanding God's Property Radio to include other programs and stuff like that. So we thought up Families on the Fringe. Which I had the first episode several months ago, and I'm like literally this week finishing up the second episode. So that should be out pretty soon. And that's just going to be about a lot of, actually, it's kind of the things we've been talking about today.
All right. We're getting the scoop.
Yeah. And then I also started just a separate End Times Mama podcast, just to kind of be a podcast extension of the blog. I know some people, it's easier for them to listen to a podcast than to read a blog. So I just kind of, and just to kind of just do whatever, whatever I think of. I think there are a number of people I have set up that I'd like to interview, a number of topics I'd like to cover. As I mentioned, feminism, cultural Marxism is a big interest of mine, just because that used to be my mentality so much. So I think I'm going to be addressing that a lot, and just kind of zeroing, because Families on the Fringe is more about families and health. And for End Times Mom, I think I'm going to be zeroing in on the kind of specific women's issues more. Marriage, Christian marriage is such a big topic, especially in today's world when we've all been shaped so much by, or, a lot of us, especially women, have been influenced so much by this very subtle programming to, submission is a really difficult concept for myself included, for a lot of Christian women. So it's something I've studied a lot and have a lot to say about. And I think that we all, women all really need to be encouraging each other. I think I see in Christian circles all the time women encouraging other women to challenge their husband. You hear it all the time if a woman is, addressing a group of sisters and saying, "Oh, I'm having this issue with my husband. It's so hard to submit to him." And they're saying, "Oh, well, he's supposed to love you like Christ loved the church." And it's like, well, yeah, other people are supposed to love us like they love themselves, but that doesn't change the fact that we're, regardless of what, yes, your husband is supposed to do that, but you're supposed to submit to him, as if he is Christ. So that's terrible advice to give a woman, even though it is directly out of scripture. It's still like, because then she's going to turn around and say, "You're supposed to love me like Christ loved the church." And that, that
then becomes a competition, spirit of competition, or for sure, and quid pro quo, or something like that.
And it's also not biblical. I think it's First Peter. Oh, I'm so terrible with Bible locations.
I'm the same way.
Second Peter. It says, if your husband does not obey the word, to obey him, so that if he does not obey the word, he can be won without a word with your, submissive behavior.
Wow.
Which is, I think, incredibly crucial. And not, a lot of women, there are some kind of really extreme, like Michael and Debbie Pearl, Created to Be His Helpmeet. They talk a lot about this kind of radical submission, which I do believe in. But I think there's a kind of a disconnect between, there can also be the opposite extreme attitude of just like, "Oh, we'll just submit to him and everything will be fine." And it's like that on a day-to-day basis, that can be really difficult. And I am someone who, I'm very opinionated, headstrong, independent kind of person. So learning biblical submission has been a, very like slow process for me. I'm a very slow learner in that area. And I think that there needs to be kind of a medium between understanding that, just like loving somebody, blessing someone who curses you and praying for those who curse you and bless those who persecute you, things like that. That has to happen in marriage sometimes. And I think not enough women are being told that, like, your husband might sin against you, and that is when you have to be that witness to him and be submissive to him. And, it's really easy to submit to your husband when he's being loving to you. But it's also really easy for him to be loving to you when you're being submissive. But it's just like works, you have to do these things in marriage, but you can't change somebody else with your behavior. Certainly the Bible tells us that it can help, it can be a good witness to somebody to kind of show them that Christian love, but we do it for the sake of our own spiritual walk, and we do it to show honor to God. Our husband was put in a position of authority over us, and we respect that position. Even when the man might be hard to respect sometimes, we have to respect that position.
Man, the feminists must hate you.
I fortunately haven't. I had one troll on my site, and I don't.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah, I hope that, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I would love to have a dialogue, but just the nature of that kind of, for lack of a better word, that spirit of feminism is not really based on a lot of logic. It's really an emotionally driven philosophy.
And it's interesting because that kind of, biblical, theme is really, strangely, really radical and a really bold thing to try to stand by, especially in today's world of, radical feminism and, political correctness. And, that's not all bad. I'm not against all that. Obviously, I'm for ethical treatment of women.
Oh, yeah.
People for the ethical treatment of women. Pet W. But, in this world, it's really a radical thing to talk about that sort of stuff. And, I obviously follow you on Facebook and I see your posts. And I mean, a lot of your posts are pretty, bold for some of the Christian crowd too. I mean, you did one a little while ago called How to Have Great Relations, something like that. Relations was not the word you used, but we have children who listen to this podcast. And in little tiny writing down at the bottom says, for Christians.
Wait, are you sure you're thinking of me?
Was that you? I think so. Okay. I'm going to go to it right now. Okay. Oh, I think maybe you posted it.
Oh,
you reposted it.
Okay.
Anyways.
That was not, I did not write that.
But, okay. But you posted it, so you believe it.
Yes, I'm sure I do.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I haven't written about that yet myself, but.
Well, it's just waiting for you when the Lord calls.
Yeah. No, I have so many half-written posts and half-baked ideas and stuff like that. And it's definitely something I think should be addressed. I think there is a misconception that Christianity is very prude.
Oppressive.
Yeah.
Prude.
And, I think Paul said that the marriage bed cannot be defiled. I think that we forget that when there relations between a man and a woman is what God intended.
Right.
And that Adam and Eve were naked together in the garden and they were unashamed in front of each other, and that they were, we were created to be, women were created because it was not good for man to be alone,
Right.
We're meant for each other, and it doesn't have to be this, secret, embarrassing thing that, that's what marriage is for. And it's very, very different than the way world treats the sexual relationship is so different.
So why don't you give everybody some links and stuff to your blog and podcast and everything like that. Just right now. We'll do it later too, but just so if they want to make a note.
Well, the main website is End Times Mama. It's endtimesmama.com. I think some people think it's MOMMA. Endtimesmama.com. I am on all the major social networks with that same name. So it's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram is all End Times Mama.
Nice. Okay, yes. Good. All right. Now, just because I'm curious, I know you have wild, feral, bloodthirsty chickens. You've got some caged animals as well. What else you got there in the homestead? Do you have any cats or dogs or anything like that?
We have a wonderful and very loyal dog who is a wonderful guard dog, nanny dog, companion. He goes with us almost everywhere.
Is he a pit bull?
He is a lab pit, yes.
Lab pit so does have the pit in there.
Combination. Yeah, pretty much every dog.
That was a good guess.
Half pit. It was a very good guess. Well, the nanny dog.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. A lot of people, my favorite thing to do is blow people's minds with saying that, pit bulls were originally nanny dogs and slept in the crib with babies and stuff.
No, they are. And he is just a perfect dog. And they really are. People just raise them bad and that's why they go crazy.
Yeah.
They're wonderful, wonderful dogs. They're so loving and caring and loyal and gentle. Okay. I'm sorry. 1 second. The dinosaur video on.
Where's that nanny dog now? He needs to be putting those kids to sleep. Oh, she muted us. We can't hear what she's saying. Well, maybe I'll sing some elevator music. Ding ding beam 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 beam.
Is that your hold music?
Yeah, that was some unlicensed elevator music that I was creating on the spot.
Nice.
Emergency avoided?
I was just putting on a dinosaur video that was being very enthusiastically requested.
So, yes, emergency
so our kids
avoided.
just watch YouTube. So when one of their video ends, they see the thumbnails for all the other videos, so then they make requests based on that.
Oh, got it. I was going to say, if they're watching on the same account that you or your husband might, it'll be like,
so funny.
Katy Perry, Illuminati exposed, whore of Babylon.
It'll be 9, there's 9 little thumbnails, and it'll be 8 kids videos, and then exposing Islam, debate with Sheik and some Christian apologist, or Katy Perry, Illuminati. It's one totally. One of these is not like the other.
Just peripherally, be getting in their.
Our video suggestions when you first log in are very funny because it's mostly, all my husband's subscriptions, and then it'll be ABCs. Yeah. Lots of we all get our education through.
That's funny. It. All right, well, good. I mean, is there something burning on your heart? Is there a main mission that you are just trying to get out there to communicate, change the world?
No, I think the gospel, speaks for itself in that regard, but what has always really, I would, of course, I believe it is my duty to share the gospel as much as possible. And I certainly hope that God can use my ministry for that. But it's always really been on my heart that my ministry could minister to the saints and, women that need that. So many women write to me and just say, I thought I was the only one. I didn't know there were other women out there like me that, I'm such an oddball. I don't, none of the women at my church want to talk about this stuff. And so between that and just kind of giving women like me a voice and I've, like you said, I've always really supported what you're doing here just because I think that in our community, it can be so governed by fear and by, Nat and I talk about this a lot too, just this kind of, people get really puffed up on the truth stuff. And I think that this year it's been really put on my heart to just, like I said, without Christ, none of this stuff means anything. If we're not also applying the major message of the, of the Gospels and the epistles of living peaceably and gently and meekly, and, we might still end up being told that we're hateful by a lot of people, especially somebody like me. The things that I talk about, people call it, sexism and bigotry and things like that a lot, but we can't gauge what we're saying or doing on people's reactions. But I think we always just have to make sure that we are not being driven by pride or fear or hate, or resentment. Something I've gone through in my own life in the last few years is being really frustrated that people didn't, I've been rejected by a lot of my very good friends for just simply for being a Christian and speaking about it. And, people insisting that I say that homosexuality is okay. And when I, as kindly as possible, say that I don't believe that, being told that they can't be friends with me anymore over that is really frustrating, I had a very flesh reaction to that and just thinking, oh, you're so hypocritical, you're the bigot, know. And so that has really, this year has really lent to my ministry, and what I'm trying to do a lot is just to reiterate that, first and foremost, we're Christians and we are going to be hated for his name. And we might end up reacting poorly to that. So I just drawing on my own experience, I want to try to speak out that, with the last year, or I guess, feels like a few months ago. It was a few months ago, 2015. But just with the stuff with the Paris terrorist attacks and seeing I was really turned off on social media with the really callous response to all of those, like that, just instantly photoshopping that girl,
right,
supposed crisis actress everywhere and things like that. And it's just like, like I feel like the truther, I've realized it's really hit me very hard that the kind of fringy truther community is just like any other Christian community. We are seriously no better.
Wow.
Like, just because these things are really important, just because it is a shame that a lot of Christians aren't aware of some of the things that are going on, it doesn't make us better Christians just because we realize that. It can greatly, like in my own experience, it's really opened me up and lent itself to my walk as far as the sort of radical reliance.
Made you a
Christ.
better Christian than you were before.
Yeah, but there was a point when I felt very superior to other Christians just because I was aware of these things, and that's when I wasn't.
Right,
I don't think I'm a good Christian now or anything, but just as far as like understanding faith and grace, I see a lot of people who I think are, they're no better than somebody sitting in a worldly church if they don't, I know for sure that there are people out there who are Christians who don't know anything about the New World Order, who are going to have more faith than somebody who knows all about it but doesn't have that faith. It's all about our faith. It's all about our, unrelenting trust in the Lord. And, the Bible, it gives us everything we need to know. All of these peripheral subjects can be, God can absolutely use them in our life, and he can use us who knows about them to preach the gospel and to teach the Bible, which I think that that should be the point. Like, what's the point of learning about all this stuff if it's not helping us in our walk and in our commission to preach the gospel?
Right.
But a lot of people, I think, kind of end up forgetting. I've met a lot of the truther people who don't even seem to know the Bible that well. They just know those few touchstone verses that sort of back up kind of conspiracy theories.
And then they know everything and the resources and the quotes about the Illuminati.
Yeah, exactly. And stuff that's like not even backed up. Like another thing, this is probably a whole other tangent, but
that's fine.
I really don't like, people get mad at me all the time for refuting things that support the worldview that I have. Like, for example, there's this Margaret Sanger meme that goes around, or it's a quote where she said, Black and Latino people are human weeds that need to be exterminated.
Right.
Margaret Sanger never said that. She said that's a composite of a few different equally racist, horrible things that she said. I am like whatever the opposite of a fan of, I totally abhor Margaret Sanger. I think she was a theosophist, a eugenicist. She hated women. She wanted to murder tons of babies. She said a lot of horrible things, but she didn't say that quote.
Right.
And the thing is, I don't know, maybe it's just my background. I was raised in a pretty intellectual, kind of debate-oriented environment. It undermines your argument to use bad evidence. I do not like bad claims. I don't like when somebody tells me something that absolutely supports my worldview, and then they give me a resource for it, and it's like just some article that somebody wrote. Like, because it's on the internet, I wish people would spend more time learning how to source things, because you can't just use just some claim. And I think I've learned this the hard way too, where I've posted something or shared something, and somebody who doesn't believe my worldview questions it, and it's like, oh wait, I didn't actually check on that. I don't actually know it's true. So
I've done that too. That's the worst.
I mean, I think we all have, and that's the thing, is like, just because something supports your worldview doesn't mean that it's true either. So I think that a lot of us really need that kind of humbling, but not everything that is consistent. There's so much deception within this community that's bent on exposing deception naturally.
Right.
There's going to be tons of disinformation, to derail the effort to expose the truth. I think Satan is not the author of confusion, or God is not the author of confusion, but I think Satan certainly is. He wants it to be really convoluted and difficult to wade through all this muck. I think that there is also just natural chaos between all of these megalomaniac, power-hungry people. They're naturally going to be, butt heads with each other. I think there is real chaos and confusion.
Right.
Not just, I think people give way too much credit to the New World Order. It's not just this amazingly well-oiled, perfect machine, or it would exist. We'd have the New World Order already.
Yeah, that's something that I came to the conclusion of as well, which is, there is like the New World Order thing, but there are still independent agents working within that order, aside from that order. I personally at this point believe that Donald Trump, for example, is like not necessarily part of the New World Order, or if he is, he's not very cooperative.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Doing
his own thing.
Yeah. So, and that's just because he, as a human, as a person, is just on his own mission. He hasn't bought into the whole NWO thing because, for whatever reason, he may not think it's profitable for him, or, he's just a stubborn person. But, I think that's a good example.
Yeah, it is. It's a funny note to end on, but we're having a bit of a urgent need here for my little one, so I'm going to have to go.
That's the perfect, the perfect way to end. I wouldn't have expected it to end in any other way. Might not be
cooperating with the New World Order. I think that is a great note to end on.
Also, somebody needs a diaper change.
Yeah, well, this is a trip we need to take to the similar, but it's a bathroom that needs to be taken. So.
All right. Well, thanks so much. This was awesome. I'm glad to get another gal pal on here, and so we'll definitely get you back one of these days.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. One more time, let's give your links and stuff just so everybody can keep up with you.
It was endtimesmama.com, and then endtimesmama on Facebook, Twitter. What else am I on? Pinterest and Instagram, which I'm not very good about, but I am on there.
Okay, all right. I'll let you go.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Basil. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did, like I do all of them. But it was really fun, actually, having those birds in the background the whole time and, like, screaming children. And I don't know. It was awesome. She sounds like she's got a fun deal going on over there, and a rugged, crafty man on her side. So anyways, I hope you guys got something out of that. She's one of those people where I'm kind of jealous of that life. I want birds and like crazy chickens and things like that running around. Children too, they're cool, I guess. But I hope that something about that touched you guys. Anyhow, so as I've stated before, the Joyspiracy theory is 100% listener supported, and so if you feel touched or edified or just joyful because of the Joyspiracy theory and supporting the Joyspiracy theory is on your mind, here's how you do it. You go to patreon.com/the Joyspiracy theory, or you can go to thejoyspiracytheory.com and press support the Joyspiracy theory. And that's how we pay the bills here. So currently on my podcasting program or hosting application, I have a limited amount of megabytes, which does keep down the number of episodes I can do, as well as the quality, the sound quality of those episodes. And so, one of these days I'm planning on upgrading. But if you feel like the Joyspiracy theory could, be a little longer, or be a little bit higher quality, or have some more episodes, a great way to vote for that would be to support on patreon.com. And you can do that in any amount. You can do, I've said it before, $1 or $2 or even $3. The possibilities are endless. But we've actually got some great supporters who are up in double digits. That's fantastic, and it really shows love for the show and helps keep it going, because we're still a small show here, but we're a tight-knit fam. All right, guys. Well, make sure to leave an iTunes rating and review. I've said it before, like I have everything else in these outros, but it really, really helps out the podcast. People have been able to find the podcast just simply because iTunes algorithms and robots see that you guys are rating it and reviewing it in a positive manner, and they take it, these robots do, and they shove it in other people's faces and be like, you'll like this. I am a robot and you are a human, but I think you will like this. I was just learning to love. Yeah, robots. All right. Anyways, what else we got here? I think that's it. Oh, a personal request from me to you guys would be just to share with one friend. Maybe you like the Joyspiracy theory and you've got friends and you like them too. So why not just tell one friend about the Joyspiracy theory? You can just share it right from your iPhone, or you can use the link on YouTube, or you can just tell them with your mouth. Be like, hello, friend. Let me tell you a thing. And tell them about the Joyspiracy theory, because, I think everybody can use it. And I think you agree. I think that's why you're here. It's because you know it's important. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and next week we're going to have another exciting episode of the Joyspiracy Theory, so make sure to catch that. But throughout the week here, just make sure to keep joying around and jangling with your juniors. That's right. Jangling with your juniors. Oh, that sounds weird. But if you want to help me out with a tagline for the end of the show, you can go to thejoyspiracytheory.com and click on the voicemail tab and just leave a little voicemail for me. Maybe you have a better tagline, and because I'm obviously not the man for the job. Okay, so go do that. Here's one now.
What up, Basil? This is Brandon Hopper. Thought I would try to throw in a tagline here. Alright, so it started off like, hey, remember when the world gets you down? You can look up to the light of the world, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. You are not alone. Here at Joyspiracy, you have a friend in me, or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, be careful not to marry any Nephilim. I think my mother or my child might be a Nephilim. Anyways, man, I hope you're having a good one. God bless you, and I plan on donating here pretty soon. Have a good day, brother. Later.